to get the bad taste of Exceptional X-Men out of my mouth, decided to delve into House of M with Uncanny X-Men 463. We already went over 462 a while back, so I'll make sure once I kind of go through all this, I'll get a playlist so you guys can check out all the issues of House of M that I have. Because I went back and I looked at the reading order, and with all the friggin' tie-ins plus the main 8-part book, freaking 63, 64 issues long. How, other than doing like omnibus or collected trades, sometimes I'm wondering, like, how do they expect everyone to read all that? It's maddening. Anyway, that aside, what I liked here is Chris Claremont and team kind of, they're tying into House of M, but they're showing what happened between Rachel and Psylocke and Brian Braddock, and how they're kind of like the outside of time, and how they are not affected while everyone else is sort of, already suckered into, for lack of a better word. Now, if you want to read what's been going on so far, feel free to pause that, read that, because I don't want to read all that, so be my guest. But I do love how, before we get this cool title thing, it says the Scarlet Witch has lost her mind and used her mutant power to alter reality to transfer the world into a mutant utopia, ruled from Genosha by her father, Magneto. That's how you open a book. Now, last issue, for those of you that have been following along, Betsy and Rachel were inside what was called the White Hot Room, which is like supposed to be like the heart of the Phoenix or something like that. So they were outside of time. Same with Brian and his, however the Britain Core works or whatever it is. However, Kitty, sorry, I was trying to get that out of my mind. Betsy and Rachel know that they need to come back and figure out what's going on with Earth 616. And they were faced at the last page of the last issue, they come face to face with a Sentinel. And Rachel says, Betsy, what's a Sentinel doing here? And why isn't it attacked? She goes, who cares? Let's not give it the chance to change its mind. Use your tech to smash its sensor array. I'm stronger. I'll take care of its CPU. Then their clothes are changed. And the dialogue kind of repeats, but we see him smiling. And Rachel goes, what's a Sentinel doing here? My brother's the Monarch, Rachel. Probably extra security laid on for the party. What the hell just happened? And then it says, we're not in Kansas anymore. And see, I love that. That's just a nice, fun, little quirky way to sort of set the tone that the world's different without it being like, oh, rainbows and unicorns and MySpace and glitter.com. So this is Season of the Witch, Part 2 of 2. Chris Claremont and Alan Davis, Mark Firmer doing the ink, Avalon's Matt Mila doing the colors, VC's Chris Ianopoulos doing the lettering, and then there's everyone else working on the book. And I just love how we kind of get this very Victorian era look as everyone's going to this party. And it just sort of reminds me kind of the ideas that were in Age of Ultron, which we'll eventually go over Age of Ultron. But yeah, anyway. And it says, a brief exchange at the door establishes that the gala is in honor of Magneto to celebrate both his birthday and the anniversary of his rule. And we just see, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to present Her Royal Highness Elizabeth Gloriana, Princess of the Royal Car Ramrod, Princess Royal of the Realm, and the Lady Rachel Grey. Just a cool little addition. And now we come to find out that in all this, Brian has also been affected. Him and McGann are husband and wife. So we realize all of a sudden that not everything is kosher here in the land of Denmark, essentially. And we see that they still have their powers, but they have full-fledged been, changed by Wanda's madness. Now, don't get me wrong, this is 2005, somewhere around there, I think is the print date. And now, the artwork, it's not bad, don't get me wrong. But I just kind of wish, by this point, 2005, I know they were starting to use digital more and all that jazz. So whenever I read an X-Men comic, I always wish that someone would just say, you know what, screw it. I'm going to kind of go back to like the John and Sal Buscema style, just the traditional artwork, which I know that's you got to grow. I get that. So with that said, kind of getting that stinginess aside, the artwork is not bad. It's pretty beautiful, especially this use of perspective as we see this whole town coming to this big bash in honor of the now ruler of the world, Magneto. And one thing that I had to laugh is, okay, so these are supposed to be all, the hoity-toities. And I just love how this one poor lady, she's got that whole hardcore, like, darling, I am so much better than you. Just love that little poke at high society there. After the party, Brian is sleeping. I love it says the night passes, the last of the guests depart, and the household staff gets busy, making the royal county palace presentable for the morrow. Brian Braddock is both monarch and champion of his realm. He strives to serve his people well, whether mutant or sapient. He knows he has nothing to fear from either. In a way that generally makes him smile, he considers this the world of his dreams, the happy ending all people deserve. And then, boom, we see him in his uniform, and it says, but there are no smiles tonight in his life besides the wife. But there are no smiles tonight as he lies beside the wife he loves more than his own life, only to find himself swept away by nightmares. Now you're thinking, hey, that was a little wordy. Well, here's the deal. We're establishing, like you would in a script. We're breaking down the quietness, the tranquility of what his life's supposed to be, but in his mind, something's going on. Compared to when we went over Exceptional X-Men, where it was like 8-9 pages of Kitty bitching, no. That was a nothing burger. This is building up to something, leading us as we see all these disjointed images saying, my captain, my champion, 48 hours, Brian, your world is doomed. And if you recall, this is the people, Roma, I think's her name, telling Brian he has 48 hours to try to figure out what's going on before Earth 616 is destroyed. And we see Brian Braddock, one of the most powerful mutants. I know those faces. Why are they yelling? What do they mean about time running out? And I just love this little thing of a clock. And then we see Saturn, don't. Your world has become a casualty cancer. Its very existence, the threats, the coherence of the entire side rail string. You can't wipe out my entire dimension. To safeguard all creation, I must. And so he wakes. And he's trying to speak to his sister, his confidants, about all these things that are going on. And then his servant, what's his name? Don't remember. Anyway, he says, I brought the morning dispatches and a guest who simply won't take no for an answer. Why should I, Peter? Brian and I have been best friends since school. And so we're seeing this familiar face. And he comes unhinged. You, Brian, what are you doing? You're not Courtney Ross. She's Opaloon Satire. I don't know how to pronounce that, guys, so we're going to go with that. Deposed tyrant of Earth 839. What are you talking about, Brian, your majesty? You're hurting me. And so Rachel and Betsy are talking. He goes, Rachel, he intends to kill her, stop him, and no one in all their power can get his hands off of her until he's like, I can prove it. She has a tattoo on her thigh. And it's not there. And you can see the fear in her face. And he goes, my lady Courtney, what have I done? So now he's torn. He's like, well, what do these dreams mean? He's not sure. It's like, it's all right, Rachel. Feel free to, I'd like to know the truth myself. Because he doesn't know what's real and what's fake anymore. But before we can get any more of that going on, help me. The Morlock. The leader of the Morlocks. Guys, you know who I'm talking about. My brain just decided, since we're on camera, that I'm going to completely forget. Anyway, we all know who the leader of the Morlocks is. I just can't remember her name off the top of my head. She is fighting Juggernaut. And Juggernaut's basically saying, why can't you guys leave us alone? And all of a sudden, Banshee's part of that in this reality. And then Blob just... And Duke just like, was it good for you, Jugs? Bet you wish you didn't have no baked beans for supper. Not to mention took more baths. When the blob lands on folks, there's a reason after they wish they was dead. Callisto, there's her name. Sorry. It just took a minute. But yeah, there's this big fight, and it takes the Britain Corps to stop them. And they're saying, you might want to be careful. There is, a scandal going on within the House of Magneto, and it needs to be stopped. There is someone that can take down his role, which leads to a very unexpected character that seems to be part of the Wagner family, if you all know what I mean. So yeah, guys, Uncanny X-Men 463. I love that this is part of House of M, but Claremont's free to kind of play with what he wants behind the scenes without having to really dig into what the main 8 issues did. I had absolute blast with it, especially considering the fact that we have Rachel and Psylocke out front and center, two of my favorite characters, and I love that Brian Braddock and Excalibur in and of itself is always so underrated. So anytime that they're brought into the forefront like that, I'm down like the clown. And if I'm wrong, feel free to make fun of me down in the comments, but wasn't Alan Davis part of Excalibur there for a while as well, which is also an added treat to this book. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever there's going to get your action figures and comics. Grab this series along with the main House of M title. And if you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little M bell next subscribe, that way as I continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel. I love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.